I've covered a bunch of dinosaur analog horrors over the past 2 months, and almost all of them made me uncomfortable. But there were a few that had creatures so vile that I would rather take my chances fist fighting 100 bears. In this video I'm going to be listing the 3 most disturbing dinosaurs from different analog horrors in my opinion. From man-made menaces that literally lure children out at night, to unholy abominations that replay the voices of their victims to lure in more people. Yeah, it gets pretty dark. And like I said, this doesn't mean the other analog horror channels I've covered aren't scary. Some probably even have a better story dynamic than the ones I'm about to list. It's just that the dinosaurs made from these 3 channels would scare the cast of any paranormal movie more than the ghosts they're hiding from. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first dinosaur comes from the channel Chronoticon. I'm sure most of you have seen their videos, specifically the San Diego incident, which showed the perspective of a normal civilian when a bioengineered megaceropod was on the loose. But the dinosaur from their channel I want to talk about is the Raptor. There are many horror tapes on the platform showing raptors. Most of it is just quick glitches or flashes, but these ones Chronoticon made were demons. For most of the video we see everything from Mr. Arnold's perspective before he was, well, you know. That's the thing with this channel, it shows you the scenes we didn't get to see in the movie and makes it as horrifying as possible. After the power goes out on the island, a park worker called Sam runs up to Arnold. He was the only surviving member of a team that was working on the park. With the electricity gone, Rexy more than likely just broke out and laid waste to the team, which was why Arnold heard a Rex roar not too far from him. As Arnold's telling Sam everything will be just fine once the power comes back on, poor Sam has a mini panic attack and says if the power is not on, then what's stopping the Raptors? And a few moments after he said this, those things started to geek out.
Maintenance here to reboot.
Hold on, the power's still out? All the fences? Even the Raptors? Run, Nick!
These things started throwing the wrong pieces of the fence and were basically free now. But Arnold and Sam just managed to make it to the bunker. Sam seems to be somewhat new here and is confused as to why this happens. But Arnold has seen this many times before, which is why he was recording it this time so the higher-ups can't keep getting away. Which honestly seemed to be the general theme in Jurassic Park. Granted, the island is in the tropics and is very storm prone, but you'd think it would make stronger cables or at least have better measures of dealing with the outages. For example, getting automatic generators instead of a manual one. But their convo is cut short when Arnold and Sam hear the door open. Sam in optimism wonders if it could be another person, which would be my thought process too, because I try everything to convince myself those sick reptiles aren't down here with me. But Arnold makes Sam snap back into reality and tells him how can another person make it past the Raptors. And just as they were starting to panic, this happened.
We need to keep.
Yep, one grabbed Sam and dragged him into the void. It's honestly terrifying to think they have that much strength. And poor Arnold couldn't even follow Sam for too long because not too long after that he had to run for his life when another raptor started to chase him. But he did manage to temporarily escape by closing the door on one of those little demons and running down a different path. It's what's about to happen next that makes these raptors part of this list. We start to hear Sam crying and asking Arnold for help. But something seems off. He sounds as though he's being strangled, but maybe it could be just a blood loss and he escaped by hiding or something. However, Sam's fate would be much worse than death.
Just keep talking. I can follow your voice. Sam! Sam! Sam?
That's right, the raptor used Sam as a trap in order to lure Arnold. It kept him alive just long enough for him to cry out and lead Arnold into the animal's location. And the moment Arnold arrives, it lifts Sam up into the air and slowly kills him right in front of Arnold, showing him what's about to happen next. This goes beyond just being intelligent, these things are malicious. The luring part is one thing, but then slowly killing the guy in front of him is another. Arnold soon finds himself running for his life once again, but unfortunately those of us who watch Jurassic Park know what happens next. The next dinosaur comes from the channel Paleovoid, who is very underrated for the type of quality they put in, so go on and check their channel out. And not just their channel, but every channel I mention. If you don't support the creators of these masterpieces, then we won't get to see any more in the future. This was another one I covered, and it's a full-on story that is still continuing, and there's different prehistoric animals, but one species has become so much of a menace that it's called the Bonebridge Reaper. The first victim we are introduced to is Harper Thompson, who is just one death in a string of disappearances reported throughout the town of Bonebridge. Just before she had gone missing, she told her parents that there was a monster that would look at her through the window and talk to her at night, trying to get her to come outside. But her parents of course just brushed it off as a child's wild imagination, which sadly was the worst decision they could have done, as Harper was never seen after. All reports say it's a person with a dinosaur mask responsible for these events. Well, at least that's what the police could imagine, because no normal person is going to think an actual monster is going to be roaming around the streets. So it has to be a man or possibly even a group with a dinosaur mask doing all of this, perhaps some sort of weird cult. But as you and I know, that's not the case. We would finally get to see the creatures responsible after the late Christopher Basu went out at night trying to look for the culprits. Which is strange, like why, even if it is a human, why are you going out at night unarmed looking for a serial killer? When he goes deeper into the forest, he stumbles across a crumbled up drawing of a little girl and a monster looking at her from the window. This was the drawing of Harper. This thing eventually did convince her to come outside, or probably just grabbed her and killed her in the forest, which is evidenced by the bloodstains. And before Christopher can fully process everything, there it is. The Bonebridge Reaper is a Dilophosaurus. This was honestly amazing. Jurassic Park did a Dilo so dirty, and most animations usually just use a Raptor, but Paleovoid managed to use a Dilophosaurus and make it crazed. Christopher tries to escape, but he couldn't. Even when he made it onto the public road, things just got worse. It wasn't one but two Dilophosaurus. They eventually ran him down and brutally but quickly slaughtered him. You can hear the bones crunching in the background. We only found out this guy is called Christopher Basu because of his ID when an autopsy was carried out by Dr. Cole of Cicada Genetics. The dilos were called specimen DILO-30-1 and DILO-30-2. They killed my guy by literally snapping his neck and then ate almost everything on Christopher's body. Parts of the jaw, femur and the neck. These dilos somehow escaped and have been on the run for a while. They are so good at avoiding humans that the entire company has been creating multiple ways to try and find or at least keep the animals in a single area. They try to make a pheromone that will be so nauseating to these animals that they will have no other choice but to stay in that specific area. But here's the thing, Cicada Genetics couldn't fully bring back these animals without putting in some modern animal DNA. The DNA is so fragmented that some gaps needed to be filled. For the dilos, part of that DNA was from a lyrebird. If you don't know what this is, it's the bird you see online that could copy multiple voices and plays baby cries and sounds from entire villages in some cases. So we know the reason behind their human speech, but what makes them so intelligent? They study people for weeks sometimes and they eventually do lure them out. This is one way you know this takes place in Europe. If I hear some little girl or old lady asking me for help at the edge of the forest, I'm either running away or blasting it if I have a firearm. But the worst thing of all is that this dilo pair is clip farming. These hunts are not just for food. They actively seek out people of different ages and ethnicities so they can get different voices, because somehow they know only one or two voices would soon get recognized in the community, but a dozen or more could lure out more people and not raise as much suspicion. And even if Cicada Labs gets them on the run, they always return to the town to eat and kill people. Deer or other forest animals aren't enough. These things are so calculative that they almost always get their target at the end of the day, whether it be imitating a loved one or even seeming like a friend to children. I mean, if it killed Christopher and left him like that, what do you think they did to the kid? One could only hope she went out quickly. This series has a bunch of interesting and uneasy dynamics, including a prehistoric virus that causes individuals to get angry in the first stage, and then their flesh starts to melt off as their organs explode out of their mouths. Yeah, pretty gruesome, but still these dilos so far are the worst things to run into in Paleovoid's verse. Not only are they smart, but they're strong too, so fighting back won't make much sense. On the tongues, people will probably never know it's a dinosaur because, let's be honest, if officers kept on getting those descriptions, they would always come up with a person in a dinosaur mask instead of an actual dinosaur. But hold on, the number one spot makes even these more favorable. I'm not even going to build up as to what these animals are. The Troodon in Weird Birds is hands down the most terrifying and cruel dinosaur in analog horror. Technically it is a Twitter ARG, but the dynamic is still analog horror-like. The creator of this ARG is Arkasukas, whose profile I'll leave in the description. I think they're working on Weird Birds Part 3, which I'll be covering when it comes out. But for now, I'll go over the heinous acts these theropods commit in the first 2 parts. I won't dive too deep into it because I already covered both parts in depth already, and those almost 2 days of editing was low-key traumatizing. The Troodons in this series combine the maliciousness of the Raptors and the voice-mimicking abilities of the Dilophosaurus. In part 1, they were the bane of the character's life, who just goes by the name of Chicago Guy. For starters, they lured out a child with voices but then killed the kid and his dad, just to use their voices against the main character to make it seem as though actual people are calling out. They even go as far as to leave the child's severed foot on Chicago Guy's porch to make him come outside, just to remove it seconds later. These things try everything in the book to harass and torment the Chicago Guy. At one point they broke into his house and started mimicking the voices of a mother and her daughter just before they killed the family.
Look at me. Look at me. Who loves you?
Mom.
Okay?
Mom.
You're gonna be okay.
I'm hurting.
Your brother's gonna be okay.
Some even hold up bodies in front of the characters to psych them out, which is something you'll see in part 2. After our beloved Mikey passed away trying to comfort Chicago Guy during his hard times, our main character had nothing left to lose, so he decides to crash out on one of these things, using a large stone as a weapon, but he got torn up. Luckily a large pack of dogs scared it away, which had his own dog in it, but he still sadly passed away from the cold and blood loss. For those of you who haven't read the ARG, you're probably wondering how a Troodon can be so scary. Aren't they small? Well, not these things. They stand as tall or even taller than a person and are very thick. Them and all the other prehistoric creatures coming into the present are entering through rifts in space that open up portals for them to enter. The Chicago Guy had it bad, but the main characters in the second part had it much worse. Mind you, in part 2 there was a massive Utahraptor that is so big it is holding an alligator and is eating it. Yet it never tried to attack people, it just ignored them. But oh, not the Troodon. They could eat anything else, but they specifically choose people. This time the story follows the journey of a sibling duo called Max and Bailey. After their dad went to drop their mom off to the hospital because she was feeling some pregnancy pains. By the way, it wasn't pregnancy pains, it was something my nightmares couldn't comprehend. But after he dropped her off, Max and Bailey came face to face with these Troodon, which caused them to hide in the bathroom until their dad came back home. To save his children, he locked himself in a room with one and it just killed him. Our poor chap even started calling out for his wife just before he died, which is terrible. Luckily both were shot and killed, but it's not just a small population. These things are terrorizing families all across the state. As a matter of fact, one was holding up a corpse of another child to the siblings on the beach just to scare them even further. And it gets much worse when you realize it was actually meant for Max, since these things actually were holding up the corpse of one of Max's friends. So they're not just saying it will be used soon, they're also putting his friend's corpse on display as though it's a trophy. There is one time they get karma though, and that's when we see a massive Utahraptor carrying the head of one of these Troodon around. It seems that nothing likes these Troodon. Everything else tries to kill them, literally. There is one more running with the Troodon near the end of part 2, which leads to Max being partially paralyzed even though the Troodon were killed. You know what, I don't even know if it was the Troodon, it could have been another one of these abominations, because they have creatures from the future as well. But that's basically the last time we see or hear about the Troodon. There are more minor instances of them, but like I said, I covered the entire story in these videos. The entire series covers multiple other prehistoric creatures, including the legendary Mikey and the fetus-eating crustacean that caused his mothers to end it. Yeah, some part of this story really gets dark. Some people simply offer themselves at some parts of the story because of everything that's going on. But I just wanted to put these guys in the spotlight to show you just how bad they are. Imagine murdering a child and the mother, then screaming their final words at another person. So these 3 creatures in my opinion are just the worst of the worst when it comes to dinosaur analog horror, and who I never want to run into. I'd rather run into a T-Rex than these guys because all 3 of them somehow specialize in hunting and tormenting people. But let me know what you guys think. What analog horror dinosaurs would you put instead of these guys? Don't forget to check out all the channels that made these brilliant creatures, by the way. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. But hold on, I want to leave this verse here for you guys who need a little extra push for the rest of the weekend. Alright folks, I'll see you later. I'm finally gonna get some shut-eye.